Imagine, if you will, a world that is older than anything you can truly comprehend, stretching back billions of years before humans walked, before trees swayed in the wind, before oceans rippled with life as we know it. Life, in its quiet persistence, began its journey in ways so subtle that if you blinked, you might miss them entirely. Tiny molecules in the primordial oceans, stirred by gentle currents and the warmth of the sun, began to assemble themselves in patterns that would one day give rise to the complexity of every living being on this planet. It was not sudden or loud. There were no grand explosions, no heralding fanfare, just an almost imperceptible dance of atoms and energy, whispering the first verses of a story that would stretch across eons. Over time, these humble beginnings became the foundation for something unimaginably intricate. From a single cell, life evolved, experimented, adapted, and persisted. The quiet, invisible changes happening at a molecular level laid the groundwork for all the astonishing creatures we now share the earth with. Every bird that sings at dawn, every fish that glides beneath the water, every human thought and emotion, all of it traces back to these initial, delicate stirrings of life. It is a story of patience, of subtlety, of time moving in ways our minds struggle to fully grasp, but which we can feel if we allow ourselves to slow down and listen. Picture the oceans, vast and silent, teeming with invisible forms of life. These earliest organisms were not aware of their importance. They simply existed, reproducing, sometimes mutating, occasionally struggling, and always moving forward in the quiet, steady rhythm of existence. They were both fragile and resilient, tiny yet infinitely significant. It is a humbling thought that everything we are, everything we know, grew from such minute and unnoticed beginnings. There is a gentle elegance in this slow unfolding, a grace that invites contemplation rather than rush. As millions of years passed, life became more complex. Single cells began to cooperate, to specialize, to form networks that allowed for more sophisticated existence. It was not a conscious choice, but a natural consequence of the subtle pressures of survival. Each tiny change, each incremental improvement, carried life forward, sometimes in ways that seemed almost random, yet always guided by the quiet hand of adaptation. Imagine these ancient waters, filled with creatures too small to see, yet each one a testament to persistence, a witness to the slow artistry of evolution. There is a certain peace in reflecting on this process. Evolution does not hurry, does not demand attention, and yet it shapes everything. It reminds us that patience is inherent in the very structure of life. The earth itself seems to breathe with this slow, persistent rhythm, and by imagining its deep history, we too can feel ourselves attuned to a calmer, slower pace. In the midst of modern chaos, the quiet persistence of life billions of years ago provides a gentle contrast, a soft reminder that change is gradual, inevitable, and often beautiful in its subtlety. Consider the implications. Every plant that grows in your garden, every bird that lands on a branch, every tiny microorganism hidden beneath a leaf, all carry within them traces of these earliest ancestors. They are living echoes of a time so distant it feels almost mythical, yet their lives are real, tangible, and continuous. By letting ourselves drift into this awareness, we begin to see the connections that link all living things, a vast web of existence spun with care and patience over unimaginable spans of time. This journey through life's early beginnings is not a story of drama or excitement. There are no cliffhanger, no sudden twists. It is a gentle unfolding, like a soft breeze stirring the surface of a quiet lake. It invites the mind to wander slowly, to drift into reflection, and to find calm in the knowledge that the story of life is one of enduring persistence. As we begin our exploration of the many fascinating facts about evolution, we carry this quiet, expansive perspective with us, allowing ourselves to sink deeper into the slow, immersive rhythm of the natural world. And so, as you listen, imagine the trillions of unseen lives, moving, adapting, surviving. Imagine the patient work of time, layering complexity upon simplicity, quietly building the world around us. In this calm, reflective space, we prepare to uncover the hidden wonders of evolution, little-known facts that reveal the astonishing creativity, resilience, and subtle beauty of life itself. Let your thoughts drift gently with these ideas, allowing the story to unfold at its own slow pace, as softly and quietly as a night breeze through ancient forests. Evolution is a word we often hear, but its meaning is far deeper and more subtle than we usually imagine. At its heart, Evolution is simply the slow, patient process through which life changes over time. It is not a sudden transformation or dramatic upheaval, but a quiet, continuous reshaping of living things, guided by the interplay of environment, survival, and chance. Each species, each organism, is a result of countless small changes accumulated over unimaginable spans of time, changes so gradual that one could almost overlook them if one did not pay careful attention. This is the beauty of evolution. It unfolds in silence, leaving behind traces for those willing to observe and contemplate. Think of evolution like a river carving its path through a landscape. The water itself does not plan or anticipate. It simply flows, gently wearing down rock, depositing silt, creating new paths and forms over centuries. The landscape is change, shaped by forces that are constant yet subtle. In much the same way, evolution moves through time, not through conscious design, but through the quiet pressure of survival, adaptation, and the occasional stroke of chance. Life adjusts, adapts, and sometimes surprises us with solutions that seem almost poetic in their ingenuity. At its simplest, evolution depends on variation. Every living being carries small differences, some visible, some hidden within their cells. These differences may be in the way a leaf grows, how a bird sings, or how an animal hunts. Occasionally, one of these differences proves advantageous, giving the individual a slightly better chance to survive and reproduce. Over countless generations, these small advantages accumulate, and slowly, imperceptibly, the species itself begins to change. This process is neither rushed nor dramatic. It is a whisper of transformation, a slow dance in which life experiments, fails, adapts, and occasionally succeeds in ways that shape entire ecosystems. It is also worth noting that evolution does not have a goal. There is no ultimate endpoint, no perfect form waiting to be achieved. Life is not striving towards some distant ideal. It is simply responding to the world as it is, adjusting in quiet ways that maximize survival under ever-changing conditions. Some adaptations may seem strange, even baffling, if viewed from a human perspective. Others are so subtle that they pass unnoticed for generations. Yet each is a testament to the patience and creativity inherent in the natural world. Imagine a population of creatures living on a small island. Some have slightly longer legs, others slightly sharper eyes. Perhaps the climate shifts gradually, bringing warmer winds or heavier rains. The individuals best suited to these conditions are more likely to thrive, while others may fade quietly into obscurity. Over hundreds, thousands, or millions of years, these minor differences accumulate, resulting in a population that looks, behaves, and survives differently from its distant ancestors. This is a gentle power of evolution, slow, steady, and quietly transformative. Variation itself is a product of mutation, genetic recombination, and environmental influence. Mutations are tiny, often invisible changes in DNA, occurring naturally and randomly. Most are inconsequential, many are neutral, but occasionally one will offer a subtle advantage. Genetic recombination, the mixing and reshuffling of DNA during reproduction, creates new combinations of traits that were never present before. And the environment, with all its subtle pressures, temperature, food availability, predators, competition, acts as a filter favoring some traits over others. Over time, these processes interact in a rhythm that is both intricate and mesmerizing, producing the astonishing diversity of life we see today. It is fascinating to realize that even humans are products of this slow, patient process. Our intelligence, social behaviors, and physical traits all arose through countless small adjustments, each carefully tested against the pressures of survival. Every habit, every subtle preference, every aspect of our physiology bears a quiet imprint of evolution. In this sense, evolution is not just a scientific concept. It is a living story, written in the body, behavior, and existence of every organism, waiting for those who slow down enough to notice. As we contemplate evolution, it is helpful to remember the scale of time involved. Human lifespans are fleeting, our centuries brief, yet evolution operates over millions, sometimes billions, of years. The tiniest changes, repeated across countless generations, accumulate into monumental transformations. Mountains of adaptation rise, rivers of genetic change flow, and yet it all happens so quietly that, without careful study, the process might seem almost invisible. It is in this quiet rhythm that we find a deep sense of calm, a recognition that life's complexity is not hurried or forced, but patiently sculpted by the ceaseless interplay of variation, survival, and adaptation. And so, as we continue this journey, we begin to appreciate the quiet elegance of evolution, the patient artistry that underlies every creature, every plant, and every living moment. We can imagine ourselves drifting alongside this slow, ceaseless process, observing the tiny changes that, over time, shape the entire world. It is a story told not with loud proclamations or dramatic turns, but with whispers and subtle gestures, an ongoing narrative of patience, resilience, and quiet wonder. Imagine traveling back over 3.5 billion years to a world unlike anything we see today. The land was barren, the oceans vast and empty except for the tiniest flickers of life that had begun to stir. There were no trees, no mountains as we know them, no familiar creatures roaming the landscape. Instead, the earth was a quiet laboratory, a place where molecules dance in slow, intricate patterns, sometimes colliding, sometimes binding together, and occasionally forming something so remarkable that it could be considered alive. Life began in these gentle, unassuming ways, not with a roar or dramatic spark, but with subtle interactions in water and stone under the soft warmth of a young sun. The earliest life forms were single-celled organisms, tiny beings that could barely be seen, yet they carried within them the seeds of every future creature. They swam in the oceans, absorbed nutrient from their surroundings, and reproduced quietly, almost rhythmically, in an endless cycle of life and death. These cells were simple, yet elegant in their design, equipped with the basic machinery to survive, adapt, and slowly evolve. They were the original architects of life, laying the foundation for everything that would come after. It is humbling to consider that the complex creatures we know today, from hummingbirds to whales, from towering redwoods to delicate orchids, all trace their lineage back to these humble beginnings. As these early cells multiplied, some began to experiment in cooperation. Tiny groups of cells found that by working together, they could survive better in challenging environments. This subtle cooperation led to the emergence of multicellular life, a monumental step in evolution. The transition was neither sudden nor dramatic. It was a gradual, almost imperceptible shift, like a soft current shaping the sand at the bottom of a river. Yet it set the stage for the incredible diversity of life that would eventually inhabit the oceans, land, and skies. During this time, evolution worked quietly, guided by the forces of variation, survival, and adaptation. Some cells developed specialized functions, while others retained their original simplicity. Tiny mutations accumulated over generations, often unnoticed, yet each one carried the potential to shape life in profound ways. In this ancient world, chance played a gentle, persistent role, nudging life in directions that were sometimes surprising, sometimes ordinary, but always moving forward in the slow, steady rhythm of existence. The oceans of this era were filled with life forms both strange and wondrous. Microorganisms floated lazily in the currents, while others moved with surprising agility, hunting for nutrients or avoiding predators. Some produced chemicals that allowed them to harness the energy of the sun, the ancestors of photosynthetic organisms that would one day create the oxygen-rich atmosphere we breathe today. The interactions between these organisms were subtle yet critical, forming the first ecological networks in which life depended on life, even in the simplest forms. There is a quiet poetry in imagining these ancient waters, teeming with microscopic activity, each organism playing a small yet essential role in the unfolding story of life. Even at this earliest stage, evolution demonstrated its creativity. Organisms experimented with shapes, methods of reproduction, and survival strategies. Some thrived for millions of years, while others disappeared almost as soon as they appeared. This constant experimentation is a heartbeat of evolution, a gentle pulse that drives the slow transformation of life over eons. It is fascinating to imagine the patience inherent in this process, the quiet persistence of life that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. As time passed, more complex structures emerged. Some single-celled organisms developed internal compartments, allowing them to perform multiple functions simultaneously. This internal organization was a quiet revolution, enabling greater efficiency and versatility, and setting the stage for even more intricate forms of life. Each small advancement, unnoticed by human eyes, carried within it the potential for monumental change in the distant future. It is in these subtle innovations that we begin to see the artistry of evolution, a creativity that unfolds slowly, deliberately, and often invisibly, like a hidden hand shaping the world. Reflecting on these beginnings, it becomes clear that evolution is both patient and persistent. Life does not rush. It adapts, experiments, and sometimes fails, but it never truly stops. The first cells, floating silently in the oceans of a young Earth, are reminders that even the smallest, quietest forms of life are capable of incredible resilience. They teach us that transformation does not require drama or spectacle. Sometimes, the most profound changes happen in silence, over spans of time so vast that they defy comprehension. In imagining this ancient world, we also begin to see a reflection of our own place in the story of life. Everything around us, the birds singing outside a window, the trees swaying in the evening breeze, the gentle flow of rivers, traces its origins back to these earliest beginnings. Life is a continuous thread, stretching from microscopic cells to the vast complexity of the modern biosphere. By slowing down, by observing quietly, we can feel ourselves connected to this deep, unbroken lineage, finding calm in the knowledge that we are part of a process far larger and more enduring than ourselves. And so, as we move forward to explore the next chapters of evolution, we carry with us this awareness of humble beginnings. We remember the tiny cells drifting in ancient oceans, the slow accumulation of subtle changes, and the quiet persistence of life. These reflections prepare us to notice and appreciate the extraordinary, often overlooked details of evolution, little-known facts that reveal the elegance, patience, and creativity of life itself. By letting our minds drift along this timeline, we can sink into a gentle, relaxed state, attuning ourselves to the slow, mesmerizing rhythm of the natural world and the timeless story of life. As life slowly progressed in the oceans, a remarkable transformation quietly began to take shape. Single cells, which had once lived entirely independently, started to cooperate. This shift, subtle yet profound, marked the birth of multicellular life. It was not an abrupt change, but a gentle evolution of teamwork. Imagine tiny organisms drifting in ancient waters, gradually finding strength and resilience by sticking together, sharing resources, and performing different tasks in harmony. This cooperation opened doors to possibilities that solitary cells could never have achieved. Some cells began to specialize, taking on roles that made the collective stronger. One cell might focus on gathering energy, while another might protect the group or assist with reproduction. These specialized roles were the earliest signs of division of labor, a principle that would shape countless species in the future. In a sense, these early multicellular organisms were experimenting with society at its most basic form, a silent, patient exploration of cooperation and interdependence. Every small success reinforced the idea that unity could create advantages where individuality alone might falter. Life at this stage was still incredibly delicate. The ocean currents were unpredictable, temperatures fluctuated, and resources were scarce. Yet, by working together, these early multicellular beings could endure challenges that might have destroyed solitary cells. This quiet resilience is a recurring theme in evolution, the way life adapts, experiments, and perseveres in the face of uncertainty. It reminds us that complexity often arises not from sudden leaps, but from incremental steps taken over unimaginable spans of time. Some of these early multicellular organisms developed structures that allowed them to move more efficiently through water. Others evolved ways to capture and digest nutrients more effectively. These adaptations were small, almost imperceptible, yet they were crucial. Over countless generations, the accumulation of these subtle changes created entirely new forms of life. Every movement, every adaptation, was a brushstroke in the slow, ongoing masterpiece of evolution. The world was becoming richer, more diverse, and more interconnected, though this richness remained hidden from human eyes for billions of years. In reflecting on this stage of evolution, one cannot help but marvel at the creativity inherent in life. Multicellularity allowed for experimentation on a scale that solitary cells could never manage. Some lineages tried new shapes, while others explored different methods of reproduction or mobility. Some experiments failed, fading quietly from the oceans, while others succeeded, laying the foundation for the extraordinary variety of life we see today. It is a story of patience, of subtle trial and error, in which even the tiniest changes could ripple through time with profound consequences. The oceans of this era were teeming with these early multicellular organisms, though they were invisible to the naked eye. Imagine a vast, calm underwater world, illuminated by faint sunlight filtering through the water. These creatures drifted slowly, adapted quietly, and reproduced with patient regularity. They were the first steps toward complexity, the beginning of life forms that could grow larger, interact more dynamically, and eventually colonize entirely new environments. Every tiny innovation, every small adaptation, was a testament to the quiet ingenuity of evolution. Some of the first multicellular life forms were remarkably simple, almost microscopic matter cells, yet they carried within them potential for the grandeur of future life. Others were slightly more complex, with simple tissues and primitive structures that hinted at the possibility of organs in the distant future. It is astonishing to consider that such humble beginnings could eventually lead to towering forests, vast oceans teeming with fish, and intricate animal societies. The seed of all this complexity was planted in the quiet corporation of cells, a delicate balance between individuality and collective strength. Even in these earliest experiments, life displayed an adaptability that is almost poetic. Cells could break away and form new colonies, explore different environments, or adjust to changes in temperature and chemical composition. There were no dramatic battles or heroic struggles, only a patient unfolding of possibilities, a slow dance between life and environment. This adaptability is one of evolution's most enduring lessons. Change need not be dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes the quiet persistence of small, incremental steps is enough to shape entire lineages over time. As we imagine this primordial world, it is helpful to picture not only the organisms themselves, but the environment around them. The oceans were vast, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, filled with nutrients and energy, yet also subject to change and fluctuation. In such a world, cooperation provided stability. Groups of cells could survive when solitary individuals might fail, and by doing so, they began a path toward more intricate and varied forms of life. The slow, patient rhythm of these early interactions set the stage for everything that was to come, a reminder that even the grandest achievements in nature often arise from the humblest beginnings. By observing these early multicellular organisms in our imagination, we begin to appreciate the elegance and subtlety of evolution. Complexity arises gradually, in layers and increments, each step quiet but significant. Every cell, every adaptation, and every cooperative behavior adds to the story, shaping the future in ways that are often invisible but profoundly important. And as we drift through these thoughts, we can feel ourselves attuning to the same slow, patient rhythm that guided life through its earliest stages, a rhythm that continues to shape the world even today, in ways both visible and unseen. After countless generations of life thriving in the oceans, a remarkable transformation quietly began to take shape. Life, which had spent billions of years beneath the waves, started to explore a new frontier, the land. This transition was neither sudden nor dramatic. It unfolded slowly, over millions of years, in subtle steps that few could have imagined at the time. Yet it was one of the most significant chapters in the story of life, opening possibilities that would ultimately shape the landscapes, forests, and creatures we know today. Picture the first brave pioneers, creatures that were part fish, part something more, slowly venturing into shallow waters, feeling the firm ground beneath them for the first time. They were neither fully comfortable on land nor entirely at home in water. Yet the advantages were clear: new sources of food, fewer predators, and the vast, unclaimed spaces of a world waiting to be explored. These early amphibians moved cautiously, testing each step, their bodies gradually adapting to the demands of a new environment. Their limbs, once simple fins, slowly became capable of bearing weight. Lungs, which had evolved for occasional air breathing, became more sophisticated, allowing longer periods out of water. It was a patient, unhurried process of trial and adjustment. The challenges of life on land were immense. Gravity pressed down in ways the water never had. The air was drier, exposing delicate skin to desiccation. Food sources were different, and the terrain varied from soft mud to rock-strewn banks. Yet these early pioneers met these challenges with subtle ingenuity. Their bodies changed slowly, imperceptibly, over countless generations. Muscles strengthened, skeletons adapted, and behaviors shifted. They became creatures capable of crawling along riverbanks, exploring tide pools, and eventually venturing further into the forests and plains that would one day dominate the continents. These first terrestrial explorers were far from glamorous. They were small, often hidden in the shadows, and easily overlooked. Yet their significance was profound. Each successful adaptation, each incremental change, paved the way for life to flourish in entirely new ways. Limbs capable of movement on land allowed for hunting, escape from predators, and the gradual colonization of a variety of habitats. Slowly but surely, life was no longer confined to the oceans. It had begun a silent, patient conquest of the continents, shaping the world as it moved forward. Imagine the forests of the time, young and sparse, filled with strange ferns and primitive plants, casting dappled shadows over moist soil. In these environments, early amphibians could find shelter and sustenance. The plants themselves were evolving, creating complex ecosystems that supported the growing diversity of life. Tiny insects buzzed through the air, while these early land dwellers hunted, scavenged, and explored. It was a delicate balance, an interplay of adaptation and environment, in which every small advantage mattered. The quiet persistence of life in this new realm created ripples that would shape evolution for millions of years to come. One of the most remarkable aspects of this transition was the evolution of sensory systems. Creatures moving from water to land needed to perceive their environment differently. Eyes adapted to light filtering through air rather than water, nostrils adjusted for breathing on land, and simple ears evolved to detect vibrations in a new medium. These subtle changes were not immediate. They were the result of countless generations of experimentation and adaptation. Yet, over time, they allowed these early explorers to navigate their new world with increasing confidence and sophistication. The story of life moving to land also reminds us of the patience and resilience inherent in evolution. For every successful transition, countless attempts likely failed. Many species never adapted, fading quietly into extinction. Yet those that persisted became the ancestors of amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and eventually humans. This quiet process of survival, adaptation, and gradual refinement underscores the beauty of evolution. It does not rush, it does not demand spectacle, but it perseveres, patiently shaping life in ways both subtle and profound. It is fascinating to consider the diversity that emerged from these early terrestrial pioneers. Some remained small and inconspicuous, living in the shadow of water's edge. Others experimented with size, form, and behavior, exploring new niches and opportunities. Each innovation, no matter how small, added to the richness of life on land. The oceans have been a stable, nurturing environment, but the land offered challenges and rewards that required ingenuity, adaptation, and patience. Life, in all its quiet persistence, rose to meet those challenges with creativity and subtlety. As we reflect on this chapter of evolution, it is worth imagining the pace and rhythm of these changes. Unlike the dramatic moments often portrayed in stories or movies, these adaptations unfolded over millions of years. Limbs grew stronger, lungs became more efficient, skin developed ways to retain moisture, and behavior shifted gradually to suit the demands of terrestrial life. It is in these patient, incremental changes that the true elegance of evolution is revealed, life's ability to experiment, adapt, and survive in a rhythm that is both subtle and profoundly effective. And so, as these early explorers ventured further from the safety of water, life began to weave the intricate tapestry of land-based ecosystems. Forests, rivers, and plains became populated with creatures capable of incredible innovation. Every small adaptation, every cautious step taken by these pioneering amphibians was a quiet victory, a testament to resilience and persistence. By slowing down and imagining these ancient worlds, we can feel the patient, steady heartbeat of evolution, a rhythm that continues to shape life today, quietly guiding the endless story of adaptation and survival. As life continued its quiet journey through the oceans, one of the most remarkable innovations began to emerge: the development of sight. The evolution of eyes may seem simple to us now, but in those ancient waters, it was a subtle yet profound revolution. At first, there were only light-sensitive cells, tiny patches on the surface of organisms that could detect the difference between light and shadow. This small ability allowed creatures to sense the approach of predators or the presence of food. It was a gentle enhancement, almost imperceptible, yet it fundamentally changed the way life interacted with its environment. Imagine drifting through the vast, calm oceans, surrounded by countless invisible organisms, each responding in its own quiet way to light and movement. Some would notice the faint shimmer of sunlight filtering through the water, guiding them toward richer feeding grounds. Others would sense the shadow of a predator overhead and subtly change direction, avoiding danger without the need for speed or force. The appearance of light-sensitive cells was a first step in a slow, patient process that would eventually allow life to perceive the world in all its complexity. Over generations, these simple light sensors gradually became more sophisticated. Tiny pits formed in the skin of some organisms, creating a primitive lens-like effect that allowed them to sense the direction of light more accurately. Others developed small cavities lined with light-sensitive cells, capable of detecting movement and shapes. These changes were not dramatic, nor were they instantaneous. They were the result of countless small experiments by evolution, each one offering a subtle advantage that accumulated slowly over time. The ocean was becoming a place where perception mattered, where the ability to see, even faintly, could mean the difference between life and death. The evolution of eyes also created new opportunities for adaptation and innovation. Predators could become more efficient, detecting prey from greater distances. Prey could become more cautious, avoiding potential threats before they drew too close. The ocean, once a relatively uniform world, became more dynamic and interactive, filled with creatures responding to signals that were invisible just a few generations earlier. Even the smallest improvement in vision could ripple through ecosystems, changing behavior, feeding patterns, and survival strategies in ways that were both subtle and profound. Imagine, for a moment, a small, ancient fish gliding slowly through the water. Its newly evolved eyes can detect the faint outline of a shadow above it. It adjusts its course ever so slightly, avoiding a predator and ensuring that it lives to reproduce another day. This tiny advantage, repeated over countless generations, slowly shapes the species, influencing not only its survival but also the survival of those it interacts with. The quiet power of vision, developing incrementally, is a testament to the patience and subtlety of evolution. While vision was evolving, other adaptations were quietly unfolding in tandem. Fish developed more efficient fins for precise movements, gills became better at extracting oxygen from water, and sensory systems improved to detect vibrations and chemical signals. Each innovation was small, often imperceptible, yet together they created a more responsive, more capable organism. The ocean became a stage for these gradual refinements, where every subtle improvement enhanced a creature's ability to thrive. Life was becoming not just more complex, but more attuned to its environment, responding in ways that were at once delicate and profound. Some creatures took these early developments in vision to surprising extremes. Predators evolved larger, more sensitive eyes, capable of spotting the slightest movement. Prey developed eyes positioned to give them a wider field of view, helping them anticipate danger. Even tiny invertebrates experimented with compound eyes, multiple lenses allowing them to detect light from all directions. These changes, incremental yet persistent, illustrate a quiet creativity inherent in evolution, a patient experimentation that continues across millions of years. The oceans themselves, once silent and undifferentiated, became filled with subtle interactions shaped by sight. Shadows, reflections, and patterns of light guided the behavior of countless organisms. The presence of vision changed the very rhythm of life, encouraging adaptations in hunting, hiding, and navigating complex environments. Each small improvement, each subtle adjustment, was like a soft ripple spreading outward, influencing life in ways that could not be predicted in advance. It is worth pausing to appreciate the elegance of this process. Vision, one of the most powerful senses we possess today, began as the simplest possible light-sensitive patch, imperceptible to the casual observer. Through patience, subtlety, and countless generations of refinement, it gradually transformed into complex organs capable of perceiving color, depth, motion, and detail. It is a reminder that the most profound changes often arise from the quietest beginnings, and that patience, persistence, and subtle experimentation are at the heart of life's enduring story. As we drift through these thoughts, imagining ancient oceans filled with creatures experiencing the world in ever more sophisticated ways, we can sense the slow, deliberate rhythm of evolution. Each adaptation, each small improvement, unfold quietly, without fanfare, yet it carries the potential to reshape the future of life. Eyes, once simple patches of light-sensitive cells, became windows into the world, opening possibilities that life had never known before. Through this gentle, patient process, the oceans became a richer, more dynamic, and more interconnected place, setting the stage for the incredible diversity of life that continues to inspire or even today. As the oceans thrive with life and vision refine the way creatures perceive the world, another quiet revolution was beginning to take shape in the skies above. The evolution of flight. Long before birds and bats filled the air, tiny insects were experimenting with the possibilities of movement beyond the ground and water. It was a subtle, patient process, guided not by design, but by gradual adaptations that allowed these creatures to explore a world that was largely untouched. Imagine the first delicate wings unfurling, barely capable of lifting a small body, yet enough to catch a current of air and glide for the briefest moment. These tiny pioneers were among the first explorers of an entirely new realm, a silent, boundless sky. The first winged insects were not glamorous or fast. They were small, often fragile, and their flight was tentative. Yet even a short glide could make the difference between life and death. By catching the slightest gust of wind, a creature could escape a predator or reach a food source that was otherwise unreachable. Over countless generations, these subtle advantages accumulated, shaping bodies, wings, and behaviors in ways that would allow flight to become more efficient, more controlled, and more versatile. It was evolution at its most patient and precise, experimenting carefully with balance, lift, and maneuverability. Imagine an early dragonfly, its wings delicate but functional, skimming above a prehistoric pond. Its presence is quiet, almost unnoticed, yet its ability to take to the air opens new possibilities for survival. Flight allowed predators to explore new hunting grounds, while prey could escape into a dimension previously inaccessible. The very air became a new environment, filled with challenges and opportunities. Insects were the first to master this three-dimensional space, laying the groundwork for future generations of flying life. The evolution of flight was not only about wings, but also about body structure, muscles, and sensory adaptations. Tiny shifts in bone density, joint flexibility, and muscle coordination gradually enabled more controlled movement. Eyes became more acute, able to track objects in a dynamic, three-dimensional environment. Antennae and other sensory organs adapted to detect air currents and chemical signals, enhancing navigation and survival. Each small change, often imperceptible, built upon the last, creating creatures finely tuned to the demands of aerial life. Some of the earliest flying insects, like dragonflies and mayflies, were already astonishing in their diversity and subtle beauty. Dragonflies could hover and glide, their large eyes scanning for prey or danger, while mayflies drifted gently on air currents, their delicate wings capturing the faintest lift. These early innovators demonstrate the quiet creativity inherent in evolution, a slow process of trial, error, and adaptation. Each generation refining the mechanics of flight just slightly, always nudging life toward greater possibilities. It is fascinating to consider the ecosystems these flying pioneers inhabited. The air above swamps, ponds, and forests became a new world, filled with invisible currents and opportunities. Flying insects could pollinate primitive plants, explore new food sources, and interact with other organisms in ways that were impossible on the ground. The atmosphere, once an empty void above the surface of Earth, became an interactive space, rich with the silent interplay of life. Each flutter, each tentative glide, contributed to a slowly emerging aerial ecosystem, subtle yet profoundly significant. Flight also created new pressures and challenges. Predators adapted to chase, evade, or ambush, while prey developed new strategies to survive in the open sky. Evolution responded to these pressures with incremental improvements: stronger wings, better vision, lighter bodies, and more efficient energy use. Every small refinement was like a brushstroke in an ongoing, invisible masterpiece, crafting organisms perfectly attuned to their new aerial environment. The process was slow, almost imperceptible, yet the results would eventually revolutionize the way life interacted with the world. The story of insect flight is also a story of experimentation and diversity. Some species attempted long-distance flight, others focused on hovering or maneuvering in dense vegetation. Some wings became membranous and transparent, others strengthened with veins of durability and control. Each adaptation reflected subtle solutions to survival challenges, quietly demonstrating the patient creativity of nature. These tiny pioneers show us that even small innovations can have immense consequences, shaping ecosystems and opening entirely new realms of existence. Reflecting on the evolution of flight, one can sense the elegance of patience in nature. These first insects did not soar effortlessly at first, nor did they dominate the skies immediately. Their achievements were the result of gradual experimentation, repeated across countless generations, each tiny improvement building on the last. It is a reminder that evolution favors persistence, subtlety, and resilience, and that even the smallest adaptations can create profound opportunities. As we imagine the ancient skies, alive with these early flyers, we can feel the slow rhythm of evolution guiding life in new directions. The air became a stage for creativity, opportunity, and adaptation. Through patient experimentation, these tiny creatures transformed the sky into a vibrant, dynamic environment. Each fluttering wing, each gentle rise and fall, represents a quiet power of incremental change, the steady rhythm of life exploring new possibilities. Flight was born not with fanfare, but with patience, subtlety, and a quiet determination to embrace a world that had previously been beyond reach. As life continued its patient journey on Earth, a remarkable group of creatures emerged, quietly claiming the stage of the planet in ways that would last for millions of years. These were the dinosaurs, creatures of all shapes and sizes, some towering like living mountains, others small and delicate, darting through the undergrowth. They ruled the land, water, and in some cases, even the air, their presence reshaping ecosystems in subtle yet profound ways. To imagine them is to step into a world that is both alien and familiar, a landscape where evolution's quiet creativity reached an astonishing scale. The dominance of dinosaurs was not sudden, but the result of patient adaptation over countless generations. They evolved in response to changing climates, shifting continents, and the slow interplay of predation and competition. Some became towering herbivores, grazing on ancient ferns and cycads, while others developed sharp teeth, swift legs, and keen senses to hunt effectively. The variety of forms and behaviors is staggering, a testament to the possibilities that arise when life is given time, patience, and opportunity. Each dinosaur species was a unique solution to the challenges of survival, crafted through millennia of incremental change. Imagine walking through a prehistoric forest, the ground thick with fallen leaves and the air humid with the scent of ancient plants. A massive sauropod lumbers slowly between the ferns, its long neck reaching for leaves high above, each movement deliberate and ponderous. Nearby, a small, agile theropod darts between tree trunks, its eyes sharp and focused. It is attuned to the slightest sound. The ecosystem is alive with interaction, predators stalking prey, herbivores grazing in cautious harmony, and smaller creatures scurrying unnoticed beneath the feet of giants. It is a world of contrasts, yet every creature plays its role in the quiet, persistent rhythm of life. Dinosaurs also displayed remarkable adaptations that allowed them to thrive in diverse environments. Some developed armored plates or spiked tails of protection, while others evolved crests and frills that may have served as communication or display tools. There were dinosaurs built for speed, able to sprint across open plains, and others designed for endurance, traveling long distances in search of food or mates. Every physical trait, every subtle modification, reflects the patient creativity of evolution, shaping organisms perfectly suited to their niche. Even the smallest dinosaurs reveal stories of innovation. Tiny feathered species, ancestors of modern birds, experimented with flight or gliding, their delicate plumage serving multiple purposes, from insulation to display. These small, often overlooked creatures show that evolution works on all scales, from the massive to the minute. The air itself became a realm of exploration, as some species learned to use their bodies to navigate 3 dimensions, just as insects had long before. Flight, feathers, and gliding are all subtle echoes of evolution's careful experimentation, repeated countless times across generations. It is also worth considering the longevity of the dinosaurs' reign. For over 165 million years, they were the dominant life forms on Earth, a period of quiet stability and experimentation that dwarfed the entire span of human history. In that time, countless adaptations emerged, ecosystems flourished, and the groundwork was laid for future life to evolve after their extinction. Their dominance was not a result of sudden power or might, but of the patient accumulation of traits that allowed them to survive, reproduce, and thrive in a changing world. Some dinosaurs displayed behaviors that, while invisible to us now, shaped entire communities. Herding, nesting, and migration patterns influence plant growth, predator-prey dynamics, and the spread of nutrients across landscapes. Even subtle interactions, like the way a large herbivore trampled the undergrowth or created pathways through dense forests, had profound effects on ecosystems. Life was interconnected, moving to the rhythm of evolutionary experimentation and subtle adaptation. Every action, no matter how quiet, contributed to the shaping of the environment. While the dinosaurs were often colossal and imposing, there was also grace in their existence. The long-necked sauropods moved with a slow, deliberate elegance, their massive forms gliding across plains with surprising fluidity. Theropods balanced precision and agility, their hunting strategies requiring both patience and cunning. Even the smallest feathered dinosaurs displayed delicate movements, hopping or gliding among branches with careful calculation. Observing these creatures in imagination, one begins to sense the calm, deliberate rhythm of life, each species moving according to the quiet logic of survival and adaptation. The extinction of dinosaurs, which occurred some 66 million years ago, was not part of their story of evolution, but it does not diminish the elegance of their existence. Their reign demonstrates the power of patient adaptation, the creativity inherent in incremental change, and the beauty of diversity born over millions of years. Even after their disappearance, the legacy of dinosaurs continued in subtle ways, particularly through birds, the living descendants of feathered theropods. Life, as always, finds a way to persist, adapt, and evolve, carrying echoes of the past into the future. As we drift through these reflections, imagining a world dominated by dinosaurs, we begin to appreciate the scale, patience, and subtlety of evolution. Each species, each behavior, and each adaptation is part of a continuous story unfolding slowly over eons. The quiet creativity of life, expressed through countless forms, reminds us that evolution is not about sudden spectacle, but about steady, persistent change. By observing this ancient world, we attune ourselves to a slower rhythm, one that encourages calm reflection, curiosity, and gentle or the remarkable story of life on Earth. And so, in imagining the forests, plains, and skies of the dinosaur age, we find a world both alien and familiar, a world in which life experimented, persisted, and thrived with patience and resilience. Each creature, from the towering herbivores to the tiniest feathered flyers, contributes to a tapestry of life woven over millions of years, a tapestry that continues to inspire wonder today. In this calm reflection, we can feel ourselves attuning to the gentle, enduring rhythm of evolution, preparing to follow life as it transitions once again, giving rise to the mammals that would one day share the earth with us. While dinosaurs dominated the earth, quietly shaping ecosystems and ruling over the land, a different story was unfolding in the shadows, a story of small, subtle creatures that would one day rise to prominence. The mammals. These early mammals were tiny, often no larger than a mouse, hiding in burrows, beneath ferns, or within the dense undergrowth. Their lives were quiet, largely unseen by the giants that roamed above them, yet they were patiently evolving, slowly experimenting with new behaviors, body structures, and survival strategies. It is fascinating to imagine these diminutive creatures scurrying through the night, their senses finely tuned to detect the faintest sound or scent, their movements careful and deliberate. Early mammals were equipped with adaptations that allowed them to survive in the shadow of dinosaurs. They were nocturnal, active during the night when predators were less likely to hunt. They had specialized teeth capable of processing a variety of foods, from insect to seeds, allowing flexibility in a changing environment. Their bodies were agile, capable of slipping into small crevices to escape danger. These subtle traits were not dramatic in the sense of immediate spectacle, but over countless generations, they gave mammals an enduring advantage, a quiet resilience that would prove crucial in the chapters of life yet to come. Imagine a small, furry creature scurrying along the edge of a prehistoric forest, careful not to attract the attention of a nearby predator. It pauses, sniffing the air, listening for vibrations, its tiny brain processing information at a speed remarkable for its size. Every movement, every decision, is a testament to the patient work of evolution, a careful balance between survival and exploration. Life for these early mammals was a delicate interplay of caution, curiosity, and adaptability. Though they were small, they were part of the intricate web of life, quietly influencing the environment around them in ways unseen. Mammals also began developing complex sensory abilities that set them apart from many other creatures of their time. Acute hearing, keen sense of smell, and, in some species, improved vision allowed them to detect threats, find food, and navigate the world with increasing sophistication. These abilities did not arise overnight. They were the product of countless tiny improvements over millions of years, subtle experiments in perception, coordination, and behavior. Each generation refined these skills just slightly, making mammals more adept at surviving in a world dominated by larger, more conspicuous predators. Social behaviors also began to emerge among early mammals. Many species lived in small groups, sharing burrows or nesting sites. Cooperation, communication, and even parental care were quietly being refined as survival strategies. These behaviors, though often invisible in the fossil record, had profound effects on the ability of mammals to endure. By cooperating, early mammals increased their chances of survival and reproduction, demonstrating that evolution works not only through physical adaptations but also through subtle changes in behavior and interaction. The rise of mammals during the age of dinosaurs was characterized by patience and quiet persistence. While the giant above captured our imagination with their size and strength, the mammals worked diligently, often unnoticed, experimenting with life in the shadows. Their small size, once a limitation, became an advantage, allowing them to exploit niches unavailable to larger creatures. They were adaptable, flexible, and remarkably persistent, a quiet story of endurance that would eventually allow them to thrive in a dramatically changed world. It is important to consider the environments in which these early mammals lived. Forests, swamps, and riverbanks offer both shelter and resources. Small plants, insects, and seeds provided food, while underground burrows and dense foliage offered protection. Life was challenging, but these conditions encouraged innovation, pushing mammals to develop agility, cunning, and an intricate understanding of their surroundings. Every tiny success, every subtle adaptation, carried the lineage of mammals forward, laying the groundwork for the rise of a new era. When we reflect on the eventual outcome, it is remarkable to see how these small, unassuming creatures shaped the future of life on Earth. The extinction of the dinosaurs created a vacuum of opportunity, and mammals, already adapted for survival in diverse and challenging environments, were ready to fill it. From those tiny, nocturnal ancestors emerged a dizzying diversity of forms, from small rodent-like creatures to massive, intelligent primates, including humans. The patience and quiet experimentation of evolution ensured that mammals were not only survivors but innovators, ready to take advantage of a new world that awaited them. Even today, the traits that allowed early mammals to thrive, agility, intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation, continue to define our species. The story of life, it seems, favors those who can endure patiently, experiment subtly, and adapt to circumstances, no matter how challenging. By tracing our origins back to these small, nocturnal ancestors, we gain perspective on the intricate and persistent rhythm of evolution. It is a rhythm measured not in dramatic upheavals, but in countless quiet steps, each one necessary for the emergence of complex, thriving life. As we drift through these reflections, we can imagine the quiet world of early mammals, scurrying through shadows, navigating dangers, and patiently experimenting with life. They are a reminder that evolution is not only about the visible or the spectacular, it is often about persistence, subtlety, and adaptability. Each small creature carries within it the legacy of survival, a silent testament to the patient creativity of life. The rise of mammals, unfolding gradually under the shadow of dinosaurs, is a story of quiet endurance, a gentle prelude to the explosion of diversity and complexity that would follow in a world after the dinosaurs' reign. Life on Earth had been flourishing for millions of years, with ecosystems reaching intricate balances and creatures of all shapes and sizes carving out their roles. Dinosaurs dominated the land, mammals scurried in the shadows, insects filled the air, and plants painted the landscapes with dense greenery and vibrant forms. It was a world of patient experimentation, a slow unfolding of evolutionary possibilities. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, the rhythm of life was disrupted by an event so profound that it would reshape the Earth forever, the arrival of a colossal asteroid. Imagine, if you will, a massive rock hurtling through the emptiness of space, drawn inexorably toward our planet. For most creatures, this impending disaster went unnoticed. Life carried on in its patient, rhythmic way. Small mammals hunted insects under the cover of night, herbivorous dinosaurs grazed along riverbanks, and predators stalked their prey across forests and plains. There was no sign of the cataclysm to come, no warning that the quiet, steady march of evolution was about to be interrupted by a sudden, dramatic force. And yet, in a single moment, that delicate balance would be transformed. When the asteroid struck, the consequences were immediate and devastating. The impact released energy millions of times greater than the most powerful human-made explosions, sending shockwaves through the Earth's crust, triggering massive fires, and sending vast clouds of dust and debris into the atmosphere. The sky darkened, blocking sunlight for months or even years. Temperatures plummeted, ecosystems collapsed, and food chains were disrupted in ways that would challenge the survival of almost every species. It was an extinction event of unimaginable magnitude, a sudden punctuation marking the slow, patient story of life. Yet even amid this destruction, life endured. Small mammals, adapted for hiding, nocturnal activity, and scavenging, were among the fortunate survivors. They were insulated, in a sense, by their size, their habits, and their ability to exploit niches that larger creatures could not. Meanwhile, the dinosaurs, despite millions of years of evolutionary dominance, were less equipped to survive the rapid and catastrophic changes. Many species vanished almost instantly, leaving behind only fossilized reminders of their once mighty presence. Extinction, in this context, is not simply a story of loss. It is also a story of opportunity, a chance for new forms of life to flourish in the aftermath. As we imagine this world in transition, it is worth noting the subtle ways in which survival occurred. Some small mammals survived by burrowing underground, protected from the initial firestorms and falling debris. Others took refuge in dense forests or riverbanks, using the environment to shield themselves from extreme conditions. Opportunistic feeders could exploit the scarce resources left in the aftermath, slowly stabilizing populations as the planet recovered. Life, though battered and altered, continued its patient, adaptive rhythm, ready to explore the opportunities that the newly altered Earth would offer. The asteroid event also had indirect effects that reshaped the evolutionary landscape. With the giant of the dinosaur world gone, sunlight returned to the Earth's surface, forests regrew, and plant life flourished in the absence of heavy herbivory. This created a wealth of new niches for mammals and other surviving organisms. Freed from the constraints of competition with dominant species, mammals began to diversify, exploring roles that had previously been unavailable. Small, nocturnal creatures now had the chance to expand into diurnal habits, larger body sizes, and new forms of social behavior. The quiet, persistent creativity of evolution, paused for a moment by catastrophe, resumed with renewed opportunity. It is remarkable to reflect on the scale and impact of this event. The extinction of the dinosaurs, once a terrifying and sudden loss, became the catalyst for the rise of mammals. Evolution is not a straight line. It is a complex interplay of chance, adaptation, and opportunity. The asteroid's impact reminds us that even in the face of sudden upheaval, life finds a way to persist, adapt, and thrive. From the ashes of catastrophe emerge the conditions for new stories, new lineages, and new possibilities. The post-asteroid world was both challenging and fertile. Mammals began experimenting with larger sizes, new dietary habits, and innovative social structures. Birds, descendants of feathered dinosaurs, adapted to fill ecological niches left vacant. Insects continued to diversify in response to evolving plants and flowering species, shaping pollination networks and food chains. Life, as always, moved forward in quiet persistence, exploring the options afforded by the altered world. Each adaptation, each subtle improvement, was a step in the unfolding narrative of survival and diversification. Even the smallest details mattered in this transformed world. The ability to sense temperature changes, to locate shelter, or to find scarce food became critical for survival. Behaviors that had previously been minor, such as burrowing, nocturnal activity, or cautious foraging, suddenly gained enormous importance. Evolution rewarded patience, subtlety, and adaptability, proving once again that life's strength lies not in individual spectacle, but in resilience and persistent experimentation over time. As we reflect on this chapter of Earth's history, the asteroid reminds us of the delicate balance that sustains life and the unpredictable forces that can alter that balance. It is a reminder of both the fragility and the endurance of life. Extinction, though dramatic, is not the end of the story. It is a reset, an opening for innovation, adaptation, and the gradual unfolding of new possibilities. Life continues, quietly and patiently, following the slow, deliberate rhythm of evolution even amid the sudden upheavals of catastrophe. In imagining the aftermath, we can picture the landscape slowly recovering. Ash settles, forests regrow, rivers flow anew. Small mammals explore the newly opened spaces, taking advantage of resources and niches that were previously blocked. Birds soar over recovering forests, insects flit among blooming plants, and life gradually regains its diversity. It is a world of patience, adaptation, and quiet persistence, a testament to the enduring creativity of evolution. The asteroid, though catastrophic, was a turning point, a moment that allowed mammals, birds, and other survivors to rise and shape the world in new ways. And so, as we drift through the quiet reflection of this mass extinction, we sense the rhythm of life continuing. Evolution does not cease. It pauses, recalibrates, and resumes, moving forward with patient determination. The asteroid reminds us of the impermanence of dominance, the importance of resilience, and the subtle, persistent ways in which life adapts. From the shadows of disaster, the story of mammals and eventually humans will begin to unfold, a gentle reminder of the continuity and wonder inherent in the journey of life. With the dinosaurs gone, a new era quietly began to unfold across the earth. Mammals, once small and shadowed by the giants, now had the opportunity to explore, diversify, and dominate the landscapes in ways that had been impossible for millions of years. The world was ripe for experimentation, filled with open niches, abundant sunlight, and forests recovering from the chaos of extinction. Life, as always, responded with patience and creativity, gradually filling the spaces left behind by the sudden disappearance of the great reptiles. Imagine the world just after the asteroid's impact. Forests are regrowing, rivers carve new paths, and the sun penetrates the once darkened skies. Small mammals cautiously emerge from burrows and hidden shelters, exploring the altered environment. At first, their movements are tentative, guided by instinct and cautious observation. Yet these small steps mark the beginning of something extraordinary. Each generation carries subtle changes, slightly stronger limbs, more acute senses, refined teeth that allow them to exploit new food sources and habitats. Slowly, over countless generations, mammals begin to occupy spaces that had once been the exclusive domain of dinosaurs. The diversity of early mammals is astonishing when imagined in this post-dinosaur world. Some remain small and nocturnal, continuing the habits that helped them survive the extinction. Others gradually grow larger, exploring open plains and feeding on the abundant plant life that flourishes in the absence of giant herbivores. Some develop sharper claws or teeth to hunt smaller prey, while others adapt to specialized diets, nibbling on seeds, nuts, or insects. This diversification is a quiet work of evolution, patient, incremental, and ongoing, producing countless forms uniquely suited to the new world. Life is no longer dictated solely by survival in the shadows. Mammals begin to experiment with new behaviors. Parental care becomes more refined, with mothers and fathers protecting and nurturing their young. Social behaviors emerge in some species, facilitating communication, cooperation, and coordination. Burrows and nests evolve into more complex structures, providing safety, warmth, and security. These subtle innovations, often invisible in the fossil record, prove critical for survival. They illustrate that evolution is not only about physical traits, but also about behaviors, interactions, and the patient trial and error of life itself. Imagine a small herd of early herbivorous mammals grazing in a forest clearing. The group moves carefully, alert to the distant sounds of predators. Mothers nuzzle their young, guiding them through the dense undergrowth. Older individuals communicate silently, warning of danger or signaling the discovery of food. These behaviors, quiet yet profound, enhance survival and allow mammals to thrive in a world still recovering from catastrophe. Each small action, repeated over countless generations, shapes a lineage, reinforcing traits that support cooperation, adaptability, and endurance. The environments themselves are transforming alongside the animals. Forests are expanding, flowering plants proliferate, and insects, freed from dinosaur predation, multiply and diversify. Rivers and wetlands teem with life, providing water and sustenance for mammals of all sizes. The interplay between species and their habitat creates feedback loops where small innovations in one organism ripple outward, shaping the ecosystem in subtle ways. Mammals are not only adapting to the world, they are gradually reshaping it, sculpting the environment in tandem with their own evolution. Some mammals begin to explore the possibilities of size and specialization. Larger herbivores evolve strong, efficient bodies capable of grazing across open plains. Carnivorous mammals develop sharper teeth, enhanced senses, and hunting strategies tailored to smaller prey. Arboreal species take to the trees, balancing agility and caution as they navigate complex canopies. Aquatic mammals, though still rare, experiment with swimming adaptations, testing the boundaries of their habitats. Each adaptation is a quiet experiment, a patient step toward survival and success in a changing world. One of the most fascinating aspects of this era is the subtle evolution of intelligence and sensory perception. Mammals develop keen senses, acute hearing, sophisticated smell, and improved vision that allow them to detect threats, find food, and navigate complex terrains. Some species begin to display early forms of problem-solving and spatial awareness, laying the foundation for behaviors that will become increasingly sophisticated over millions of years. Intelligence, in this context, is a slow, deliberate adaptation, honed by countless generations of subtle experimentation and observation. As the post-extinction era progresses, mammals begin to occupy ecosystems once dominated by dinosaurs. Open plains, dense forests, and winding rivers become home to a remarkable diversity of species. Predators and prey interact in delicate balances, herbivores influence plant distribution, and social structures develop among group-living species. Life, once constrained by the presence of towering reptiles, is now free to explore an almost limitless array of possibilities. Evolution, patient and persistent, is shaping a world rich with new forms and behaviors. Even the smallest mammals continue to play vital roles in the recovery and evolution of ecosystems. They pollinate plants, disperse seeds, and serve as prey for larger predators, maintaining the intricate balance of life. Their quiet persistence, adaptability, and ingenuity exemplify the ongoing power of evolution. Small steps, repeated over millions of years, gradually produce diversity, resilience, and innovation. This patient rhythm underlies a continued story of life, a story that unfolds slowly, deliberately, and with remarkable subtlety. Reflecting on this era, it becomes clear that the rise of mammals is a testament to resilience and opportunity. Life has a remarkable ability to endure, to adapt to sudden change, and to explore new niches in the aftermath of catastrophe. The extinction of the dinosaurs, devastating as it was, created a canvas upon which mammals could experiment, diversify, and thrive. Over millions of years, these patient, subtle adaptations would set the stage for the eventual emergence of primates, and ultimately, humans. As we drift through this reflection, imagining early mammals exploring forests, plains, and rivers, we sense the steady, patient rhythm of evolution. Every cautious step, every subtle adaptation, and every quiet innovation contributes to the richness and diversity of life. The world is slowly transforming, shaped by the persistent creativity of mammals and other survivors, moving toward a future filled with possibilities. The rise of mammals is not a story of sudden triumph, but of careful persistence. Life continues its quiet experimentation, evolving, adapting, and exploring the opportunities presented by a changed world. From the shadows of extinction emerges a diversity of forms, each perfectly suited to its environment. The patient rhythm of evolution carries forward, guiding life through subtle, incremental changes that accumulate over millions of years, creating the intricate, interconnected, and wondrous world we see today. As millions of years pass in the warm, recovering forests of the post-dinosaur world, a new group of mammals began to quietly explore possibilities that would one day reshape the planet. The primates. These small, often fragile creatures were not the largest or the strongest, nor the fastest, but they were remarkably adaptable, with delicate limbs, keen senses, and an intelligence just beginning to emerge. They moved carefully through the trees, navigating branches and foliage with precision, their lives guided by curiosity, caution, and the slow, patient work of evolution. Early primates were arboreal, living in trees to avoid larger predators on the ground and to exploit abundant food sources. Their hands and feet were flexible, capable of grasping branches with ease. Their eyes were forward-facing, providing depth perception, crucial for moving safely from branch to branch. These adaptations, though subtle, allowed them to explore their environment in ways that other mammals could not. Every careful movement, every cautious leap, was part of the quiet experimentation that defines evolution. Imagine a tiny primate perched on a high branch, scanning the forest below. Its large eyes observe the shadows of predators, the movements of insects, and the rustle of leaves signaling ripe fruits. Its hands, delicate yet strong, reach for a cluster of berries, while its tail provides balance, a silent counterweight as it navigates a canopy. Life for these early primates is a balance between risk and reward, between observation and action. Every decision matters, shaping survival and influencing the traits passed on to future generations. The diet of early primates played a significant role in their evolution. Fruits, leaves, insects, and occasionally small vertebrates provided nutrition, while also encouraging behaviors such as foraging, memory, and spatial awareness. The ability to remember the location of fruiting trees or to track the movements of insects required both intelligence and observation. Over generations, these mental faculties were refined, laying the foundation for more complex cognitive abilities in the future. Subtle changes in brain structure, combined with keen sensory perception, gave primates an edge in navigating a complex and ever-changing forest environment. Social behaviors began to emerge among primates as well. Many species lived in small groups, communicating through vocalizations, gestures, and facial expressions. Cooperation became advantageous, whether in foraging, grooming, or avoiding predators. Parental care was extended, with mothers and sometimes fathers investing time and energy into raising offspring. These behaviors, subtle yet profoundly important, shaped the survival and evolution of primates, reinforcing traits that would continue to develop over millions of years. Imagine a group of primates interacting quietly in a dense forest. One individual discovers a fruiting tree and signals to others with a soft call. The group moves carefully, balancing on intertwined branches, sharing access to resources. Mothers guide their young, teaching them which branches are safe, which fruits are edible, and how to move through the canopy. Life is a delicate interplay of observation, learning, and adaptation, a quiet rhythm that carries forward across generations. The forests themselves played an important role in shaping early primate evolution. Dense canopies, complex branch networks, and diverse plant life created challenges and opportunities. Primates had to navigate three-dimensional spaces, avoid predators, locate food, and interact with one another. Each of these challenges encouraged subtle adaptations. Stronger limbs, improved vision, sharper memory, and greater social intelligence. The environment acted as a sculptor, shaping not only the physical traits of primates but also their behaviors and cognitive abilities. Over time, primates began to experiment with new niches. Some ventured closer to the ground, exploring forest floors for insects and small plants. Others expanded their range into different types of forests, adapting to variations in temperature, foliage, and food availability. This slow, patient diversification increased their resilience and capacity for survival. Each subtle adaptation allowed primates to explore more of the world, opening pathways for future generations to develop greater intelligence, dexterity, and awareness. The quiet evolution of primates highlights a central principle of life. Small, incremental changes over a vast period can produce profound results. Forward-facing eyes, grasping hands, flexible limbs, social learning, and cautious curiosity may seem minor in isolation, yet together they lay the groundwork for complex behaviors and advanced cognition. Evolution does not rush, but its patient experimentation ensures that life can adapt, survive, and innovate even in the face of changing environments and unforeseen challenges. Even the smallest primates contributed to shaping ecosystems. By dispersing seeds, pollinating plants, and interacting with other species, they influence forest composition and growth patterns. Their quiet persistence helped maintain the balance of life, creating subtle feedback loops that enrich the habitats they inhabited. Life, in this way, is both shaped by and a shaper of its environment, moving forward in a continuous, interconnected rhythm that unfolds over millions of years. Reflecting on the rise of early primates, one can sense the patient, deliberate rhythm of evolution at work. These creatures, unassuming and small, were experimenting with movement, cognition, and social behaviors. Each cautious step through the canopy, each decision about where to forage or how to interact, was a quiet act of adaptation. Over millions of years, these small steps accumulate, producing the diversity, intelligence, and versatility that we see in modern primates today. The story of early primates reminds us that intelligence and adaptability are the result of patient experimentation. Life does not leap immediately into complexity. It takes time, subtly refining abilities, behaviors, and interactions until sophisticated outcomes emerge. The careful, measured evolution of primates exemplifies this process, a gentle unfolding that prepares the stage for later innovations in cognition, problem-solving, and culture. As we drift through the imagined forests of this time, observing early primates moving gracefully through the trees, we sense a quiet continuity. Life is patient, adaptable, and persistent. Each small innovation builds upon the last, creating a tapestry of adaptation, behavior, and intelligence that will one day lead to the emergence of humans and other highly cognitive species. The journey of primates is a story of subtlety, endurance, and the gentle accumulation of change, perfectly suited for reflection and contemplation. As primates continue to evolve in the forests and woodlands of the post-dinosaur world, their behaviors became increasingly complex, subtle, and fascinating. Life was no longer merely about surviving or finding food. It began to involve cooperation, communication, and problem-solving. Small groups of primates developed intricate social structures where each individual had a role, learned from experience, and adapted to behaviors of others. In these quiet interactions, the seeds of intelligence, culture, and long-term planning were being sown, though no creature yet fully realized the potential of these subtle changes. Early primates relied heavily on social bonds to survive. Grooming, a simple act of cleaning fur and removing parasites, became a crucial behavior for building trust and reinforcing relationships. Imagine a mother gently grooming her young, her careful movements conveying comfort and security. Nearby, other members of the group participate in the same ritual, forming a network of interdependence and cooperation. These small, seemingly ordinary acts created a foundation for more sophisticated social behaviors, teaching young primates about hierarchy, alliances, and empathy. Communication, too, began to evolve in subtle ways. Early primates used a combination of vocalizations, gestures, and facial expressions to convey information. A short chirp might warn of danger, while a series of gestures could signal the discovery of food or a safe path through the canopy. These methods of communication were delicate and nuanced, understood only within the social group but essential for coordinated movement and survival. Over time, the ability to interpret and respond to social cues became increasingly refined, setting the stage for the complex social interactions observed in modern primates. Tool use began to appear, not in grand gestures, but in quiet, experimental ways. A primate might pick up a stick to probe for insects, use leaves as makeshift cups for water, or manipulate stones to access hard-to-reach food. These actions required observation, learning, and patience, often repeated over generations to refine the technique. Though simple, such behaviors represented a remarkable step forward in cognitive development, demonstrating foresight, problem-solving, and adaptability. The forest itself became a classroom, where young primates observed elders, imitated behaviors, and gradually learned to manipulate their environment in increasingly sophisticated ways. Imagine a small group navigating a dense forest. One individual discovers a cluster of termites hidden beneath bark. Using a twig, it carefully extracts the insects, sharing its success with curious companions. Others watch, learn, and attempt similar methods, gradually improving their technique. This quiet, patient experimentation illustrates the slow accumulation of knowledge and skill, a process that, over millions of years, would lead to more advanced tool use, planning, and innovation. Early primate groups also developed a sense of hierarchy and organization, though it was subtle and flexible. Dominance was established through displays, postures, or occasional confrontations, but cooperation and mutual support were often more important for long-term survival. Within these groups, individuals learned from one another, adapted behaviors, and formed bonds that could influence reproductive success and access to resources. These dynamics required intelligence, memory, and social awareness, pushing the cognitive abilities of primates to new levels over time. Parental care was another critical factor shaping primate evolution. Mothers, and sometimes fathers, invested substantial time in nurturing and protecting offspring. Young primates learned essential skills: how to forage, climb, communicate, and navigate the forest from attentive parents. This extended period of learning allowed more complex behaviors to emerge, fostering adaptability and increasing survival rates. The forest canopy, with its dangers and opportunities, became a living classroom where life skills were passed down slowly, carefully, and deliberately. Subtle experimentation with environment and behavior continued to shape primates in remarkable ways. Some individuals explored new types of food, others tested different methods of movement through the trees. Observation and imitation became key strategies for learning, ensuring that successful behaviors were preserved and refined over generations. Life in the canopy was a delicate balance of caution, curiosity, and ingenuity, with every small decision influencing survival and shaping the trajectory of the species. Even seemingly minor adaptations had profound consequences. Forward-facing eyes allowed depth perception, crucial for leaping between branches. Dexterous hands enabled delicate manipulation of objects. Vocal and facial communication enhanced cooperation and coordination. Each of these traits, refined slowly and patiently over countless generations, contributed to a remarkable increase in cognitive and social sophistication. In combination, they laid the foundation for behaviors that would eventually define the intelligence and versatility of modern primates. The gradual sophistication of primate behavior also influenced the surrounding ecosystem. By foraging carefully, dispersing seeds, and interacting with other species, primates helped shape forest structure and plant diversity. Their social learning and problem-solving abilities affected not only survival but also the ecological dynamics of their environment. Life, in this way, is a continuous feedback loop where subtle changes in behavior influence the world, which in turn shapes the next wave of adaptations. Reflecting on this period, it is clear that early primates exemplify the patient creativity of evolution. Intelligence, social complexity, and problem-solving do not emerge suddenly. They are the result of subtle, persistent experimentation with environment, social interactions, and behaviors over millions of years. Each careful observation, each gentle interaction, each learned skill contributes to a slow but inexorable increase in sophistication, preparing life for future possibilities that are only realized in the distant future. Imagine watching a primate group at dusk, moving quietly through the canopy, communicating softly, sharing knowledge, and exploring the forest. Every action is purposeful, measured, and subtle. Yet over countless generations, these behaviors accumulate, producing complexity that would seem almost miraculous to a casual observer. Life progresses not through sudden leaps, but through patient, quiet adaptation, a rhythm that has persisted for millions of years and continues to shape the story of evolution today. The story of early primate social structures, communication, and tool use reminds us that evolution is not merely about survival in a physical sense. It is also about learning, adaptation, and the development of intelligence. Small, patient steps, repeated and refined over time, create profound outcomes. Life in the canopy is a testament to the subtlety and creativity inherent in evolution, a gentle, persistent rhythm that ultimately leads to the emergence of beings capable of reflection, planning, and complex thought. As millions of years continued to pass, a subtle but remarkable shift began to occur among the primates. A small group of forest-dwelling mammals began exploring life in a new way, upright, balanced on two legs, moving with a rhythm entirely different from their arboreal ancestors. These early hominids were neither the largest nor the strongest creatures of their time, yet they were quietly pioneering behaviors and physical adaptations that would one day define the human lineage. Life was still patient, gradual, and cautious, yet a profound transformation was underway. Imagine a small hominid navigating the forest floor at dusk. Its hands, once primarily for grasping branches, now help balance while reaching for food, picking up stones, or manipulating objects in ways that had never been necessary before. Its eyes, forward-facing and keen, scan the surroundings for threats, potential resources, or other members of its group. Every movement is deliberate, careful, and thoughtful, the result of millions of years of evolution shaping the body for both mobility and versatility. The forest floor is a new world, filled with opportunities and challenges, requiring intelligence, dexterity, and awareness in equal measure. Bipedalism, The ability to walk upright on two legs was a subtle but transformative adaptation. It allowed early hominids to move efficiently across open ground, to carry food or infants, and to survey their environment from a higher vantage point. The shift to bipedal movement was not instantaneous. It required changes in the pelvis, spine, legs, and feet. Each generation refined these adaptations gradually, experimenting with balance, coordination, and energy efficiency. Walking upright may seem simple to us now, but in this early stage, it was an experiment in persistence, skill, and subtlety, performed daily under the watchful eyes of predators and competitors. Life for these early hominids was a delicate balance between caution and curiosity. They relied on the wisdom of observation, learning from both the environment and each other. Parents taught their young to navigate uneven terrain, to identify edible plants, and to recognize danger. Groups moved together with quiet coordination, sharing knowledge and offering protection. Social learning became increasingly vital, reinforcing behaviors that enhanced survival and ensuring that skills, strategies, and insights were passed down to future generations. Diet played a key role in shaping early hominid life. They foraged for fruits, nuts, roots, and occasionally small animals, their diet demanding intelligence, dexterity, and problem-solving skills. Tools, still rudimentary, began to appear. Simple sticks could dig roots from the soil, stones could crack nuts, and hands could manipulate objects in ways that extended their reach and effectiveness. These small innovations required patience and experimentation, and over time, the skillful use of tools will become a defining characteristic of the human lineage. Imagine a small group of hominids gathering around a cluster of fallen fruits. One individual holds a stone, carefully positioning it to crack open a nut. Others watch, learning the technique, perhaps trying their own variations. Communication is subtle, a series of gestures, calls, and expressions conveying meaning without the need for complex language. Every action is part of a learning process, repeated across generations, refining skills and enhancing the collective knowledge of the group. These quiet, patient experiments with tools, diet, and social behavior represent the slow accumulation of intelligence over millions of years. Early hominids also began to develop more complex social behaviors. Cooperation became increasingly important, whether in foraging, defending against predators, or raising young. Hierarchies were subtle, established through observation and interaction rather than outright conflict. Bonds formed between individuals, reinforced through grooming, shared tasks, and protective behaviors. These relationships were crucial, ensuring the survival of both individuals and the group as a whole. Life was no longer only a matter of physical adaptations. Social intelligence was emerging as a critical factor in evolution. The forest floor itself shaped these early hominids in profound ways. Navigating open spaces, avoiding predators, and locating resources required agility, awareness, and careful planning. Each step, each choice influenced survival and carried evolutionary consequences. Environmental pressures, combined with social learning, created a delicate balance, allowing these early humans to explore, adapt, and thrive in new ways. Over time, these subtle pressures encouraged innovations in movement, cognition, and cooperation, setting the stage for even greater evolutionary achievements. One of the most fascinating aspects of early hominid evolution is the interplay between physical adaptation and cognition. As bipedalism freed the hands from manipulation, intelligence and problem-solving became increasingly valuable. The ability to plan, to observe, and to experiment quietly with objects and the environment allowed early hominids to survive, innovate, and refine behaviors over generations. Each generation built upon the knowledge of the previous one, gradually increasing sophistication in ways that would eventually lead to culture, language, and complex tool use. Even the smallest gestures mattered. Picking up a rock, carrying a piece of fruit, or using a stick to probe the soil was not merely an act of survival. It was an experiment, a quiet trial that shaped cognition and skill over time. Observation and imitation became central to learning, allowing knowledge to accumulate within groups. Life in these early hominid societies was a delicate interplay of exploration, caution, and subtle social learning, creating a rhythm that would continue to guide evolution into the future. Reflecting on this era, it becomes clear that the emergence of bipedalism and early tool use represent a critical turning point in the story of life. These quiet adaptations, subtle yet profound, illustrate the patient, deliberate creativity of evolution. Life was experimenting with new possibilities, building the foundation for behaviors, intelligence, and social structures that would one day define humanity. The forest floor was both a challenge and a classroom, shaping bodies, minds, and social dynamics in ways that would resonate for millions of years. As we imagine these early hominids moving carefully through the forest, observing, experimenting, and interacting, we sense the slow, deliberate rhythm of evolution at work. Every cautious step, every learned skill, and every social interaction contributes to a quiet accumulation of knowledge and ability. These patient, subtle changes lay the groundwork for a future in which intelligence, creativity, and culture would flourish, a testament to the enduring rhythm of life adapting to opportunity, challenge, and possibility. As early hominids continued to explore life on the forest floor and nearby open plains, a remarkable transformation quietly unfolded. The hands, once primarily used for climbing and grasping, were increasingly employed for manipulation, experimentation, and the creation of simple tools. These early innovations were not dramatic or grandiose. They were subtle, deliberate, and repetitive, but they marked a turning point in the slow, patient story of evolution. Each action, repeated across countless generations, set the stage for the remarkable cognitive and cultural achievements of the future. Imagine a hominid sitting beneath the shade of a tree, examining a smooth stone. Its fingers explore the surface, testing weight, texture, and balance. Nearby, another individual cracks a nut using a simple rock, demonstrating a technique learned through observation and trial. These small actions are quiet experiments in problem-solving, requiring focus, coordination, and attention to detail. While they may seem ordinary, they represent the first steps in the human capacity to manipulate the world in purposeful ways, turning the environment into a canvas for ingenuity. Early tools were simple but effective. Stones for cracking nuts, sticks for digging roots, or branches for probing insect nests illustrate the ingenuity of these small, patient innovators. Each tool required careful observation, experimentation, and refinement. Young hominids would watch elders, imitating and learning the subtle techniques necessary to use a tool successfully. Over generations, these behaviors became increasingly sophisticated, demonstrating that intelligence is not simply inherited, but cultivated through experience, observation, and patient trial and error. The creation and use of tools also influenced social structures. Groups learned to coordinate, share discoveries, and communicate methods. Observation and imitation were not limited to physical skills. They included social behaviors, teaching, and the subtle passing of knowledge from one individual to another. Life became increasingly cooperative, with the success of each individual contributing to the survival and prosperity of the group as a whole. The interplay between innovation and social learning created a feedback loop that accelerated adaptation and enhanced intelligence in ways both visible and invisible. Dietary expansion played a significant role in this period. Early hominids began experimenting with a wider variety of foods, including roots, nuts, fruits, and small animals. Tools allowed them to access resources that were previously unavailable, and careful observation of the environment taught them where and when to find sustenance. Foraging became an intellectual activity, requiring memory, planning, and coordination. Each successful hunt or collection reinforced knowledge, enhancing the ability of future generations to survive and thrive. Even the smallest adaptations in hand dexterity had profound implications. Precision grips allowed hominids to manipulate objects delicately, while coordinated movements enabled them to craft rudimentary tools or extract food from challenging environments. Each small improvement increased survival chances, encouraged experimentation, and gradually shaped the neural pathways associated with problem-solving and planning. Evolution was quietly sculpting not just the body, but the mind, using repeated actions, observation, and subtle social learning as instruments of development. Consider a hominid group exploring a riverbank. Some individuals use stones to crack open shells or nuts, while others dig for edible roots with sticks. The young observe, practicing similar techniques with varying degrees of success. Occasional mistakes are corrected through observation or gentle guidance. Over countless repetitions, skills are refined, knowledge is retained, and innovation becomes part of the collective behavior of the group. These quiet, persistent actions create a culture of learning long before the development of language or formal teaching. Tool use also encouraged foresight and planning. Hominid began to recognize cause and effect, understanding that certain actions could produce specific results. A stone could crack a nut, a stick could dislodge insects, and patience could yield sustenance otherwise inaccessible. These experiences nurtured mental flexibility and reasoning, reinforcing the development of intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. Each successful interaction with the environment was a subtle yet profound lesson in observation, experimentation, and adaptation. Social cooperation grew alongside tool use. Groups worked together, shared discoveries, and communicated subtle cues. Teaching emerged as a vital behavior, whether through demonstration, imitation, or guidance. The transmission of knowledge strengthened bonds, enhanced group survival, and reinforced the importance of careful observation and patience. These social dynamics contributed to cognitive growth, ensuring that knowledge accumulated and evolved across generations, laying the foundation for increasingly complex thought and behavior. The development of early tools and intelligence also influenced environmental interactions. By manipulating objects, accessing new foods, and altering the landscape in small ways, hominids began to shape their surroundings. Fallen branches became digging tools, stones became instruments for breaking nuts, and forest paths were gradually modified through repeated use. These subtle interactions illustrate a fundamental principle: life does not exist in isolation. Every innovation, every adaptation, gently reshapes the environment, creating a continuous feedback loop between organism and habitat. Over time, the cumulative effect of these subtle experiments became extraordinary. Small adjustments in hand use, coordination, observation, and social interaction laid the groundwork for increasingly sophisticated behaviors. Intelligence was being cultivated slowly and patiently through repetition, observation, and careful adaptation. The forest floor and riverbank became classrooms, laboratories, and testing grounds for the quiet development of problem-solving, dexterity, and foresight. Reflecting on this era, it is remarkable to see how small, deliberate actions over countless generations produce profound results. Life was experimenting patiently with intelligence, tool use, and social coordination. Each innovation, each subtle refinement, built upon the last, gradually creating the cognitive foundation that would ultimately define humanity. The quiet persistence of early hominids, their careful observation and experimentation, exemplifies the patient rhythm of evolution, demonstrating that progress is often subtle, incremental, and cumulative. As we imagine these early hominids moving through the forest, cracking nuts, digging roots, observing one another, and experimenting with stones and sticks, we can sense a deliberate, gentle rhythm of life. Evolution does not rush. It works slowly, quietly, and persistently, building intelligence, creativity, and adaptability over millions of years. The humble beginnings of tool use, repeated across generations, are a testament to patience, experimentation, and the enduring creativity inherent in life itself. As early humans continue their journey across forests, riverbanks, and open plains, social cooperation quietly became one of the most important tools for survival. Life was no longer only about individual skill or strength. It was about learning to move, act, and think together. Groups began to form with subtle hierarchies, unspoken rules, and shared responsibilities, where survival depended as much on collaboration as it did on individual ingenuity. In these quiet, patient interactions, the foundations of human society were being laid long before the development of language or formal communication. Imagine a small band of early humans huddled together near a river at dusk. Some individuals gather fruits, roots, or nuts, while others keep watch for potential predators. Tasks are divided almost intuitively. Some forage, some scout, and some care for the young or the sick. Every member contributes in small ways, yet each action matters for the survival of the entire group. Over time, these repeated patterns of cooperation build trust, reinforce bonds, and create a sense of unity that becomes crucial in navigating a world filled with both opportunity and danger. Social behaviors became increasingly complex. Grooming, a behavior inherited from primate ancestors, evolves into more than a practical act. It strengthens bonds, reassures individuals, and establishes trust within the group. Imagine the gentle touch of one individual cleaning the fur of another, a quiet act of connection that communicates care and mutual dependence. These small, Intimate gestures foster cohesion, ensuring that the group functions smoothly, that knowledge is shared, and that collective survival is more likely. Observation and imitation played critical roles in social learning. Young humans watched their elders carefully, learning which plants were safe to eat, how to dig for roots, or how to use simple tools effectively. They also observed social interactions, understanding which behaviors strengthened alliances, which gestures communicated danger, and how cooperation led to success. Over generations, this subtle transfer of knowledge accumulated, creating a foundation for culture, intelligence, and increasingly sophisticated problem-solving. Imagine a small human group exploring a forest clearing together. One individual discovers a cluster of edible roots, using a simple stick to dig them out. Others observe, imitating the technique, occasionally adjusting it to suit their own hands. Meanwhile, subtle gestures and vocal sound communicate awareness of danger or opportunity. This is social learning in action, quiet, patient, and cumulative, gradually shaping both behavior and cognition. Each repeated interaction, each shared discovery, strengthens the bonds within the group and ensures that knowledge persists across generations. Cooperation also extends to defense. Early humans are vulnerable to predators, so groups develop strategies to protect themselves. Individuals take turns keeping watch, sounding warnings through vocalizations or gestures, and even coordinating movements to confuse or deter threats. These behaviors are subtle, almost instinctive, but they reflect a growing awareness of cause and effect, the ability to anticipate outcomes, and the benefits of working together. Cooperation becomes not only a strategy for survival, but also a mechanism for teaching, problem-solving, and reinforcing social bonds. Food sharing is another profound example of early social cooperation. Imagine one member of the group gathering an abundant cache of fruits or nuts and distributing portions to others. This act of generosity ensures the survival of weaker or younger individuals and strengthens social cohesion. Sharing food also encourages reciprocity and trust, reinforcing the interdependence of group members. In these small, quiet acts, early humans learn the principles of mutual support, empathy, and the subtle ways social behavior enhances survival. Parental care continues to evolve as an essential aspect of social structure. Mothers, fathers, and older siblings contribute to raising young, teaching them not only survival skills but also the norms and expectations of group life. Young humans learn to navigate the landscape, understand danger, interpret gestures, and imitate problem-solving techniques. These prolonged periods of learning, nurtured through observation, practice, and gentle guidance, allow for the accumulation of complex knowledge across generations. Intelligence is cultivated not only through individual experimentation, but also through social experience. Communication is gradually becoming more sophisticated. While fully developed language is still far in the future, vocalizations, gestures, and facial expressions convey increasingly nuanced information. A soft call might indicate danger, a series of gestures might direct attention to food, or a look might communicate curiosity or concern. These subtle cues are essential for group coordination, reinforcing bonds and transmitting knowledge. Social interaction, in this context, becomes a crucible for both survival and cognitive development, encouraging increasingly complex thought processes over generations. Even the physical environment influences social evolution. Early humans adapt to forests, plains, and rivers, learning how to forage efficiently, navigate safely, and cooperate in dynamic landscapes. Repeated exposure to challenges such as predators, scarcity, and changing seasons encourages a refinement of social strategies. Observation, experimentation, and imitation create a feedback loop where behavior adapts to the environment and, in turn, shapes group dynamics. Each small improvement enhances collective survival and contributes to the gradual development of culture and intelligence. The cumulative effect of these subtle social behaviors is profound. Small acts of cooperation, shared knowledge, and mutual care accumulate over countless generations, gradually producing complex social structures, enhanced cognition, and the foundation for culture. Life in early human groups is a delicate dance of observation, imitation, experimentation, and adaptation, where every action matters and every interaction contributes to survival. This slow, patient rhythm ensures that knowledge is preserved, refined, and passed forward, forming the basis for increasingly sophisticated societies. Reflecting on this period, it becomes clear that early human social structures exemplify the quiet creativity and persistence of evolution. Intelligence is nurtured not only through individual problem-solving, but also through collaboration, observation, and shared experience. Each gentle act of cooperation, each subtle transfer of knowledge, and each interaction within the group contributes to a foundation that will eventually support language, culture, and civilization. As we imagine these early human groups moving through forests, foraging together, caring for one another, and experimenting with tools and strategies, we sense the patient rhythm of evolution at work. Life progresses slowly, quietly, and deliberately, shaping intelligence, social bonds, and behavior over millions of years. The emergence of cooperation and rudimentary culture is a testament to the enduring creativity, resilience, and adaptability inherent in our species, illustrating the profound change often begins with subtle, patient acts repeated across generations. As early humans continue to develop in small, tightly knit groups, a quiet and remarkable transformation began to take shape, the emergence of symbolic behavior. Life had long been about survival, observation, and experimentation. But gradually, humans began to express themselves in ways that went beyond immediate necessity. A stone might be arranged in a pattern, a scratch on a tree might mark a significant location, or a rhythmic beat might accompany a group gathering. These subtle gestures were the beginnings of imagination, communication, and a form of understanding that transcended the immediate moment. Imagine a small group gathered beneath the shade of a vast tree, the air warm and still. One individual picks up a stone, feeling its weight and texture, and arranges it carefully in a circle. Nearby, another traces a pattern on the ground with a stick, moving deliberately, perhaps to mark a location or convey a message to others. These simple acts might seem trivial, but they represent a quiet evolution of thought, a recognition that objects, marks, and patterns can carry meaning beyond their immediate, practical function. It is an early form of symbolic thinking, a first step toward human imagination. The importance of such symbolic behavior lies in its subtle power to communicate ideas, reinforce social cohesion, and preserve knowledge. Imagine a young human observing the stone circle or the patterns drawn in the soil. Through observation, the young one begins to understand that these arrangements are intentional, meaningful, and perhaps carry lessons about location, resources, or social hierarchy. The act of imitation allows knowledge to pass from one generation to the next, creating a silent culture of shared understanding and innovation. Early humans also began experimenting with sound and rhythm as a form of symbolic expression. A series of vocalizations, rhythmic clapping, or tapping stones together could signal warnings, call attention, or even accompany early social rituals. These subtle forms of communication went beyond immediate survival. They were a way to coordinate, to bond, and to express creativity. Each sound or rhythm was a quiet experiment in the capacity of humans to use their bodies, voices, and environment as instruments of conveying thought and emotion. Tool-making itself began to take on symbolic dimensions. Stones shaped with precision, sticks sharpened with care, or patterns in the arrangement of objects indicated intention, skill, and planning. These behaviors reflect the growing cognitive capacity of early humans to plan ahead, to imagine possibilities, and to refine techniques over time. It was not enough to survive. Survival could be enhanced and enriched through foresight, creativity, and experimentation with symbolic expression. Imagine a group of early humans sitting near a river at twilight, arranging pebbles along the bank in intricate sequences. The young watch intently, learning the patterns and attempting their own arrangements. Each repetition hones both motor skills and cognitive awareness, subtly shaping the ability to think abstractly. The forest around them is silent, yet within the circle of humans, a quiet dialogue of observation, imitation, and symbolic experimentation unfolds. Over generations, these simple acts of arrangement and pattern recognition would lay the groundwork for art, language, and complex human thought. The use of symbols also reinforced social bonds. Patterns, rhythms, and gestures were shared among the group, creating a sense of collective identity and continuity. Imagine a communal ritual where individuals gather, perform coordinated gestures, or manipulate objects in unison. These acts foster trust, cooperation, and cohesion, allowing the group to navigate challenges more effectively. The subtle interplay of social learning, observation, and symbolic expression strengthened the fabric of early human communities. Symbolic thinking also enhanced problem-solving and planning. Early humans could imagine consequences, test possibilities in their minds, and refine strategies before taking action. A pattern in the placement of stones might indicate a safe path or hidden resources. A rhythmic sequence might coordinate group effort. These quiet exercises of foresight required mental flexibility, attention, and observation. Each act of symbolic thought, though subtle, strengthened neural pathways associated with memory, reasoning, and innovation, gradually expanding the cognitive abilities of humans. Even small gestures carried meaning. Touching a particular stone, tracing a line, or repeating a sound was a deliberate act with significance beyond immediate survival. These actions nurtured imagination and created a shared mental landscape, allowing humans to consider ideas, possibilities, and connections that transcended the here and now. Symbolic behavior is a quiet spark that begins to separate humans from other species, a patient, gradual unfolding of the ability to think abstractly and communicate that thought. The environment itself shaped these early expressions. Stones, wood, water, and the patterns of the forest became instruments for human creativity. The ability to observe subtle differences, to experiment with arrangements, and convey meaning through the environment demonstrates the intimate relationship between cognition and the natural world. Early humans were learning not only to survive but to interpret, manipulate, and express within the context of their surroundings. Every subtle gesture carried lessons about causality, aesthetics, and communication. Reflecting on this period, it becomes clear that symbolic behavior represents a turning point in human evolution. It is a quiet emergence of imagination, abstract thought, and intentional expression. From arranging stones to tapping rhythms, from drawing lines to communicating with gestures, early humans began to explore mental landscapes as rich and intricate as the forests, rivers, and plains they inhabited. Each act, subtle and patient, contributed to the gradual development of culture, intelligence, and creativity. Imagine watching these early humans at dusk, the forest bathed in golden light. Stones are arranged, rhythms echo softly, gestures convey meaning, and eyes observe carefully. Each individual participates, learns, and experiments, building a collective understanding that spans generations. Life, in this quiet, deliberate unfolding, is more than survival. It is an exploration of possibility, a patient unfolding of intelligence, creativity, and imagination. The emergence of symbolic behavior marks the slow, deliberate creation of human culture, thought, and identity. Through quiet observation, experimentation, and imitation, early humans expanded the boundaries of their minds, preparing for the future in subtle yet profound ways. Life, it seems, thrives not only in movement and adaptation, but also in reflection, creativity, and the gentle exploration of meaning. As early humans continued to explore and inhabit forests, riverbanks, and open plains, their interaction with the environment became increasingly sophisticated. Life was no longer simply a matter of gathering fruit or avoiding predators. It evolved into a careful, deliberate practice of understanding, manipulating, and cooperating with the world around them. Tools, once simple stones and sticks, became extensions of their hands and minds, allowing early humans to access new resources, solve complex problems, and gradually shape the landscape in subtle yet profound ways. Imagine a small group of early humans moving through a forest clearing. One individual holds a carefully selected stone, its edges shaped through repeated use to crack nuts or break shells. Another carries a sharpened stick, ideal for digging roots or probing insect nests. The young watch intently, learning the techniques through imitation and observation. Every action, though quiet and deliberate, contributes to the slow accumulation of knowledge, skill, and culture. Life is a patient, unhurried experiment, where repeated actions refine ability and expand opportunity. Tool refinement is a subtle but essential part of this process. Stones are chipped to create sharper edges. Sticks are trimmed and tested for length, strength, and flexibility. These early humans experiment constantly, trying new angles, grips, and techniques. Each small improvement enhances efficiency and opens new possibilities for foraging, hunting, and protection. Over countless generations, these patient refinements accumulate, gradually transforming simple objects into specialized instruments capable of accomplishing tasks that would have been impossible for earlier generations. Imagine a scene near a riverbank where a group is foraging. One individual uses a sharpened stick to extract tubers hidden in the mud, while another uses a stone to crack open nuts. Each action requires concentration, observation, and control. The young imitate, experimenting with different grips and methods, while the elders observe and occasionally guide. Over time, these repeated efforts produce subtle improvements in skill and technique, allowing the group to access more food more reliably and with less effort. Each careful act reinforces knowledge, shaping both the mind and the body of those who participate. Hunting strategies also begin to evolve during this period. Early humans, though not yet the formidable hunters of later eras, experiment with coordination, timing, and planning. Small animals become targets, and the group works together to flush prey from hiding spots or corner them in natural obstacles. Observation, patience, and communication are crucial. Vocal cues, gestures, and positioning guide the actions of each individual, allowing the group to act in unison. These early hunting experiments cultivate intelligence, social cohesion, and foresight, demonstrating the growing capacity of humans to manipulate both the environment and each other to achieve desired outcomes. Collaboration is central to survival. Gathering food, scouting terrain, and observing threats require shared attention and effort. Imagine a group spread across a clearing. Some forage quietly while others watch for predators or guide movement. Every member contributes in ways suited to their abilities. Cooperation is not a formalized process, but an intuitive understanding of interdependence. Each success, each safe return, strengthens trust, reinforces bonds, and encourages repetition of effective behaviors. Over generations, these subtle patterns of collaboration shape not only survival strategies, but also the cognitive and social sophistication of the group. Even the simplest innovations influence cognition. Sharpening a stick, selecting a specific stone, or coordinating movements for hunting requires planning, anticipation, and a growing sense of cause and effect. Every decision carries consequences, which are observed, learned, and refined. The mental discipline required for such subtle experimentation strengthens neural pathways, enhancing problem-solving, memory, and adaptability. Life becomes not only a series of reactions to immediate threats, but also a patient exploration of possibilities and strategies, laying the groundwork for future intelligence and creativity. Imagine a group preparing to cross a shallow river. One individual tests a footing with a stick, observing the flow and the stability of the stones. Another signals a warning when the current becomes too strong. Young observers learn how to assess risk, make decisions, and coordinate with others. These quiet, repeated interactions reinforce both practical skills and social cohesion. Survival is enhanced not only through physical ability, but also through the development of judgment, foresight, and careful observation, a delicate interplay between mind, body, and environment. Tool use and refinement also foster subtle forms of teaching. Elders demonstrate techniques while younger members imitate, experiment, and occasionally innovate. Successes are observed and repeated. Mistakes are noted and avoided in future attempts. Over time, this quiet, iterative process of learning and refinement produces a cumulative culture where knowledge builds slowly and patiently across generations. The forest, the river, and the open plains become classrooms for experimentation, observation, and adaptation. Food acquisition, tool refinement, and hunting are not isolated behaviors. They are interwoven into the social fabric of the group. Sharing discoveries, cooperating in tasks, and observing one another enhances both survival and social cohesion. Acts of collaboration reinforce trust and interdependence, shaping social structures, encouraging communication, and nurturing collective intelligence. Each repeated act contributes to the subtle evolution of culture, cognition, and social awareness, creating a foundation that will endure for millennia. Reflecting on this period, it becomes clear that early humans were engaged in a delicate, patient exploration of their world. Life was a series of small, iterative experiments, refining tools, coordinating movements, sharing discoveries, and observing outcomes. Each repetition, each subtle improvement, strengthened survival strategies, enhanced cognitive ability, and nurtured social bonds. This quiet, deliberate rhythm is the essence of human evolution, incremental, cumulative, and profoundly effective. As we imagine these early humans moving through forests, foraging along riverbanks, and experimenting with sticks, stones, and cooperative strategies, we sense the steady, patient unfolding of intelligence and culture. Life progresses not in leaps but through careful, repeated actions, subtle innovations, and shared experience. The refinement of tools, the experimentation with hunting, and collaboration within groups all illustrate the quiet creativity inherent in human evolution, demonstrating that the foundations of ingenuity, adaptability, and social intelligence are built slowly, deliberately, and patiently over countless generations. As early humans continued to adapt to forests, riverbanks, and open plains, their relationship with the environment grew increasingly sophisticated. Life was no longer solely about immediate survival. It became a patient exploration of opportunity, timing, and subtle manipulation of surroundings. Humans began noticing seasonal patterns, the growth cycles of plants, the migration of animals, and the behavior of rivers and streams. By observing and responding to these rhythms, early humans quietly began the first steps toward environmental management, preparing for a future where survival would increasingly depend on understanding and shaping the world around them. Imagine a group of early humans moving through a forest in late summer. Some are gathering fruits and nuts, noting which trees bear ripe produce and which have already been harvested. Others observe the behavior of birds and small mammals, understanding which areas might offer food or indicate danger. These subtle observations are carefully remembered and shared, passed from one individual to another, creating collective awareness of seasonal change and resource availability. Over time, this knowledge allows humans to anticipate shifts in the environment and plan their movements and activities accordingly, a quiet but profound form of intelligence. Seasonal adaptation becomes central to survival. Early humans learn which plants are edible at certain times of the year, when rivers rise and fall, and when animal herds migrate through familiar territories. This knowledge allows them to move efficiently, gather resources effectively, and avoid scarcity or danger. Imagine observing a group crossing a shallow river in spring, when waters are low and safe to ford, or moving toward a grove of nut-bearing trees in autumn, when the harvest is plentiful. Life is a careful balance of observation, timing, and adaptation, where small, patient decisions ensure survival and prosperity. Early humans also begin to subtly manipulate their environment. They move stones to create clearer paths, break branches to access fruit, or dig shallow holes to uncover edible roots. These actions, though modest, reflect the growing capacity to interact intentionally with the world. Humans are learning that they can influence their surroundings to make life easier and more predictable, a foundational understanding that will later lead to agriculture and permanent settlements. Every small modification of the landscape carries lessons about cause and effect, foresight, and the possibilities inherent in environmental observation. Imagine a scene near a riverbank. One individual tests the soil with a stick, learning where roots are likely to grow. Others remove stones or create small clearings to facilitate movement or access to resources. The young observe these actions carefully, learning both the practical techniques and the underlying logic. Over generations, these subtle experiments accumulate, creating knowledge about soil, water, plant cycles, and resource management. Life in this early period is a patient dialogue between humans and the environment, a slow process of understanding and adaptation that quietly shapes cognition, social organization, and survival strategy. The observation of animals also plays a crucial role in environmental adaptation. Early humans track the movements of prey, notice feeding habits, and anticipate seasonal migrations. This understanding allows them to position themselves advantageously, plan hunting expeditions, and coordinate foraging activities. Imagine a small group noting the flight paths of birds, the tracks of deer, or the presence of fish in a river, adjusting their behavior in response. Knowledge gained through observation is shared, imitated, and refined, creating collective understanding of the environment and its rhythms. Collaboration remains central to these environmental interactions. Gathering food, managing water access, and observing seasonal changes require coordination and communication. Imagine a group deciding where to camp for the night, choosing a location near both water and food sources. Some members scout ahead while others prepare the camp, sharing knowledge silently through gestures, glances, and subtle vocal cues. Each action supports the others, creating a network of interdependence that strengthens survival and reinforces social cohesion. Over generations, these coordinated behaviors become part of the cultural memory of the group. The beginnings of proto-agriculture are quietly emerging in this period. Early humans experiment with replanting seeds, observing which plants grow best, and protecting areas of fertile soil. These are modest steps, perhaps the replanting of tubers, the scattering of nuts, or the careful selection of berries, but they represent a profound shift in thinking. Humans begin to recognize that they can influence not only their immediate survival, but also the future productivity of the land. This slow, patient experimentation lays a foundation for agriculture, settlement, and the ability to shape the environment intentionally. Even fire, though not yet fully controlled, becomes part of this environmental interaction. Small controlled burns may clear underbrush, facilitate hunting, or improve soil for future growth. Observing the effects of fire on plants, animals, and the landscape teaches humans about cause and effect, risk management, and environmental manipulation. Each controlled experiment with the natural world contributes to knowledge, cognition, and the subtle development of foresight. Life is becoming increasingly deliberate, a careful interplay of observation, experimentation, and adaptation. Over time, these quiet interactions with the environment, observing seasons, tracking animals, experimenting with plant growth, and subtly modifying landscapes, create a cumulative understanding that allows humans to thrive in varied habitats. Knowledge is passed down through observation, imitation, and subtle guidance, ensuring that each generation benefits from the accumulated wisdom of those who came before. Life is no longer merely reactive. It is anticipatory, reflective, and creative, blending cognition, social cooperation, and environmental insight in a delicate balance. Reflecting on this era, it becomes clear that early humans were quietly shaping not only their own survival, but also the trajectory of life itself. Each observation of seasonal change, each small experiment with soil or water, each coordination of group activity contributes to a slow but steady evolution of understanding. Humans are learning to work with the environment, anticipate challenges, and create opportunities, an approach that will one day allow the emergence of agriculture, settlement, and complex societies. Imagine a group moving through the forest at dusk, carefully observing the ripening fruits, tracking animal movements, and experimenting with small modifications of the land. Each member participates in this patient, cumulative process, learning, observing, and refining techniques. Knowledge accumulates slowly across generations, shaping behavior, cognition, and social organization. Life is deliberate, quiet, and thoughtful, a gentle rhythm of observation, adaptation, and subtle experimentation that prepares humans for the dramatic innovations of the future. As the millennia quietly passed, early humans continued their patient, deliberate exploration of the world around them. Life had gradually transformed from a series of immediate survival challenges into a careful, thoughtful engagement with the environment, each day a subtle experiment in understanding, adaptation, and cooperation. The forests, riverbanks, and open plains have been both playgrounds and classrooms, shaping intelligence, social cohesion, and creativity in ways that would resonate for millions of years. Humans were learning not only to survive but to shape the world around them, preparing for possibilities that extended far beyond the present moment. Imagine a small band of humans moving across a gentle slope at dawn. The air is cool and still, and the mist hovers above the grass. Each individual moves with quiet purpose. Some forage for early ripening fruits, others inspect the soil for edible roots, and a few carry sharpened sticks or carefully shaped stones. Young ones follow closely, observing, imitating, and experimenting, learning from the elders' patient guidance. There is no rush, no urgency beyond the rhythm of life itself, only a steady, deliberate engagement with the environment, each action teaching lessons about survival, adaptation, and creativity. Tool use and refinement have now reached new heights. Stones are shaped with precision, their edges honed for cracking nuts, cutting meat, or scraping hides. Sticks are sharpened, strengthened, and tested for durability. Simple tools are combined, used in tandem, and sometimes even preserved for future use. Imagine a human selecting just the right stone for a particular task, feeling its weight, testing its grip, and imagining how it might perform. This careful attention to detail reflects not only the growing dexterity of the hands, but also the evolving foresight and cognition of the mind. Each tool is a small triumph of patience, experimentation, and learning, a testament to the slow accumulation of knowledge over countless generations. Hunting strategies have evolved alongside tools, blending intelligence, observation, and cooperation. Groups work together to track prey, plan ambushes, and coordinate movement across terrain. Subtle vocal cues, gestures, and even the placement of objects guide collective action. Imagine a group patiently following the tracks of a deer, moving silently through underbrush, anticipating the animal's movements. Each individual knows their role. Some drive a prey forward, others block escape routes, and a few stand ready to strike at the right moment. The success of the hunt depends not on brute strength alone, but on communication, foresight, and the quiet rhythm of collaboration honed over generations. Even the management of food and resources demonstrates a remarkable understanding of foresight and planning. Gathered fruits and nuts are shared carefully, with attention to fairness, survival, and social cohesion. Roots and tubers are harvested and sometimes replanted in favorable areas, anticipating the future needs of the group. These subtle practices represent the earliest forms of proto-agriculture, a quiet recognition that humans can influence the environment in ways that extend beyond the immediate moment. Every careful action, every repeated experiment, builds a foundation of knowledge that ensures the survival of the community and strengthens social bonds. Social structures continue to develop, becoming increasingly sophisticated and nuanced. Hierarchies are subtle, established through observation, respect, and collaboration rather than constant conflict. Grooming, teaching, and shared tasks reinforce bonds, while cooperation in food gathering, tool-making, and hunting strengthens group cohesion. Imagine a small group resting near a stream at dusk, individuals quietly sharing experiences from the day, lessons learned, techniques tested, and observations noted. Knowledge flows gently from one generation to the next, creating continuity, stability, and collective wisdom that enhances both survival and the richness of social life. Language, though still in its earliest forms, begins to emerge as a tool for more precise communication. Subtle vocalizations, gestures, and facial expressions convey increasingly complex information. A tone of voice might indicate danger, curiosity, or excitement. A gesture might communicate the location of food or suggest a movement pattern during a hunt. Over time, these forms of communication become more nuanced and expressive, laying the groundwork for language as a vehicle for thought, imagination, and culture. Humans are learning that words, sounds, and symbols can carry meaning beyond the immediate moment, allowing knowledge to accumulate and spread in ways that were previously impossible. The emergence of symbolic behavior enriches social life and cognition even further. Stones arranged in patterns, rhythmic sounds, or simple drawings on surfaces reflect the beginnings of imagination and abstract thought. Imagine a small group gathered around the fire, arranging stones to mark territory, trace paths, or record events. These acts are quiet, deliberate, and patient, demonstrating an early awareness that objects and patterns can convey meaning, that the mind can extend beyond the immediate environment into memory, reflection, and creativity. Symbolic thought fosters not only cognitive development, but also the shared culture that will define humanity in the millennia to come. Environmental manipulation becomes increasingly sophisticated. Humans learn to modify landscapes subtly, clearing underbrush, planting seeds, and managing water sources. Controlled fire is used to enhance hunting, improve soil quality, and create warmth and light. Observation of animal behavior and seasonal patterns informs movement, resource management, and risk avoidance. Each of these small interventions requires patience, foresight, and careful coordination, reflecting a growing understanding that humans are not merely part of the environment. They can shape it, influence it, and plan within it. Life is no longer only reactive. It is deliberate, strategic, and reflective. Through all these processes, the development of culture, cognition, and social cohesion continues to accelerate. Shared rituals, teaching, imitation, and storytelling weave a tapestry of collective knowledge. Imagine the elders recounting experiences, the patterns of animal migration, the most effective hunting strategies, the locations of edible plants, or the lessons learned from previous mistakes. The young absorb this knowledge through observation, experimentation, and gentle guidance. Culture, in this context, is a living, cumulative force, passing wisdom from one generation to the next and ensuring that each new group begins life with a foundation built on countless prior experiences. By now, early humans have achieved a remarkable balance. They are deeply attuned to their environment, skillful in manipulating it, cooperative in their social interactions, and beginning to explore the world of imagination, symbols, and foresight. Each generation continues the slow, patient process of refinement, building upon the cumulative lessons of their ancestors. The rhythm of life is deliberate and steady, a quiet dance of observation, learning, experimentation, and adaptation that stretches across forests, riverbanks, and plains. Intelligence, creativity, and social complexity are no longer accidental. They are the outcome of countless small, thoughtful actions repeated over millions of years. As we imagine the end of this long journey, a group settled by a river at dusk, the sun dipping low and painting the sky in warm, fading light. The forest is calm, the water reflects gentle ripples, and the group rests after a day of careful activity. Some sit quietly, sharpening stones or arranging sticks. Others share observations, point out edible roots, or gently teach the young how to forage. A soft rhythm of communication and movement fills the space, subtle and deliberate, reflecting the patient accumulation of knowledge, skill, and culture. In this quiet moment, the journey of evolution feels almost tangible, a slow, steady unfolding of intelligence, cooperation, and creativity that stretches back through countless generations and forward into the unimaginable future. In conclusion, the story of early humans is one of patient adaptation, subtle experimentation, and quiet creativity. Life evolves not only through brute force or sudden leaps, but through small, repeated actions, careful observation, and cooperative learning. From the forest canopy to the open plains, from the simple stick to the carefully shaped stone, from the earliest gestures to the beginnings of symbolic thought, humans have been quietly shaping their destiny. Every small decision, every subtle experiment, and every shared lesson contributes to the emergence of culture, intelligence, and civilization. This journey reminds us that evolution is not merely a biological process. It is a story of persistence, creativity, and reflection. It is a testament to the power of patience, cooperation, and the accumulation of knowledge over time. From the first cautious steps of primates in the trees to the deliberate manipulation of the environment by early humans, life has moved forward with a gentle rhythm, ever adapting, ever learning, and ever preparing for the future. As we leave this story and allow it to settle into our minds, the quiet rhythm of evolution continues to echo. The forest, the plains, and the rivers remain, unchanged yet subtly shaped by countless generations. Early humans, through patient observation, cooperation, and creativity, laid the foundation for all that is to come: culture, society, imagination, and the endless possibilities of human ingenuity. And now, as the sun sets and the forest grows still, we can close our eyes and rest, carrying the gentle, deliberate story of life and evolution into our dreams, letting its quiet wisdom guide us into calm reflection and restful sleep.